You're listening to the Loyalty Minute, the show that helps you build better customer loyalty and more valuable user engagement, with your host, Rob Gallo.
Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of the Loyalty Minute. I'm your host, Rob Gallo, and today I'm excited to chat with Bobby Gillespie, or Bobby G, as he likes to go by. Bobby is a brand growth consultant, and he's the author of the forthcoming book, Build Your Brand Like You Don't Give a Shit. The I is obviously blacked out so we can get it on the bookshelves. And he's the founder and the principal of Propr Design, a Baltimore-based B2B brand growth agency. Welcome to the show, Bobby. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. So for those who don't know about Propr Design or yourself, let's give a background on you and the company and how you got to where you're at now.
So I'm born and raised in Philly. I moved to Baltimore about 15 and a half years ago. And I was, most of my career I spent as a designer, going from in-house to agency. I spent the last part of my career before I became an entrepreneur, working and growing a big inbound e-commerce agency. And I just kind of grew frustrated with how the industry was operating in terms of just standards. And the standards were just all transactional how they're treating employees, transactional how they're treating clients. And I'm a relationships type guy. So that kind of frustrated me. I wanted to focus more on delivering better results to our clients and really focusing on bridging the gap between their business goals and their brand aspirations. And a lot of times what we're doing is always just jumping to design. And, along the way, I'm like, well, why is this appropriate? And why are we doing this to make somebody happy when they're not the customer? So we really kind of focused Propr originally on asking why. Why are we doing this? Why do you need a new website? Why is this stuff wrong? Why is your messaging off point? And then really digging in and having clarity on the true answers to that question. So we had a better perspective on what the roadmap needed to be moving forward to get our clients really outcomes they desired. So we've been doing it since 2014. We primarily focus on B2B tech brands that are looking to scale. Mm-hmm. And the reason we kind of specialize there is because it's really interesting. We're working with, PhDs and engineers, scientists, just brilliant people that are smarter than us, but they don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to compose messages or really make those connections, authentic connections with their customers and scale their company accordingly. So that's where we come in.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. We're definitely going to dive deep into Propr Design and how it all works. But the first question I wanted to ask you is on a personal level, Bobby. What are some of the brands that you would be attracted to and loyal to, and why?
It's all about authenticity for me and purpose, right? So, what we do for our clients is really help them be themselves, and that's something that really helps people feel more fulfilled, but also makes decision-making a lot easier when you know what's right. But I'm not loyal to a ton of brands. I like to kind of operate as a free agent. But one brand that my wife will kind of roll her eyes at that I'm loyal to is Sonos. They are a tech brand, mm-hmm. And I love music. So my Propr's office is literally around the corner from my house. I can walk from my bedroom to my living room to my kitchen to my front porch, and then a brief moment of silence, and I get to my office and it's the same song playing, right? And I really like that. I really like their technology, but what makes me a fan is their support. So, we've had this system for years and some of it's some legacy stuff, but I'm always expanding it. And recently when we moved away from Spotify because they do not have my loyalty, to another streaming service, we were getting all of these like interruptions and dropouts, and the songs weren't playing consistently or at the same time across the system around my house. So I called their tech support, and this woman got on who was just so nice and friendly. I felt like we were like having a glass of wine together. And she walked me through so much deep like support to get our system right. And she was just listening, and we were talking, and I was on with tech support, I don't know, for an hour plus, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like she was just caring and wanted to BS, but also was helping me, right? And she also let me know that some of my older equipment qualified for a 15 to 30% discount on upgrading it, but we got to keep it too. So through all of this, an hour of my time that I don't feel like I lost. My system was upgraded in terms of performance by her advice. I also committed to, we're redoing our kitchen. Our house is 102 years old. And we're redoing our kitchen. And I was like, well, I want to wire some speakers in here, or do I go with Sonos with the wireless? She walked me through everything. I feel incredibly confident and comfortable spending more money with them, expanding my system because of how she made me feel. I believe that they will stand by their equipment. They'll support it, and they'll constantly be upgrading it, right? And if I ever need help, I can just call them and someone's there to do it. So I spent like another $1,000 on equipment after I got the phone with her, and that's not even the stuff for my kitchen, just because of how they made me feel.
That's awesome. So my interaction with Sonos years ago, when I lived in the Caribbean, I had a Sonos system set up to the TV and then around the entire house. But we built it wired back in the day because it was a cement house. You know what I mean? It was made out of cinder block and had rebar in it. So Wi-Fi was very, very difficult to get back and forth. So, but I just remember it as a hardware company. Do they do software where it streams now too?
They do have, well, everyone's a media company now, right? So they do have a Sonos radio, but I don't tune into it. They have equipment that you can wire your own speakers to, or they have a system that broadcasts on your Wi-Fi. And they have the app that lives on your phone or your device, or if they have an app for my Mac. So it's all the same. So it is a little bit of software. It is a little bit of media. And it is a lot of hardware.
Yeah. Well, when we sold the house in Antigua, I left the Sonos system there because I had a system already in the house in New York. So, but it was definitely a cool system. I loved it. Everybody that came over was like, yeah, this is really cool stuff. And this was back in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, that's around, I think 2012 is when I got my first piece. I mean, I have turntables hooked up to it. You know, I stream records all over my house, my garage. My garage is separate from the house. Like, it's amazing. I have speakers out front of the office to shoot out into the streets of Baltimore if I want to play music out there. Nice. Like, it's great. It just adds so much flexibility. It's just amazing. And they're constantly supporting and upgrading. We have problems with Wi-Fi in our house because it's all plaster, and plaster apparently is more negative to your Wi-Fi signal than even brick or cement, according to the nice woman I spoke to. She's like, is your house old and is it all plaster? I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's probably some of the issues you're having. But she walked me through on how to fix that and mitigate it. And it's worked.
Gotcha. And to translate for some of our younger listeners, the reference that Bobby made to a record player. Maybe that's a story for another episode.
Oh my gosh.
I know they are making a comeback though. My buddy up in Buffalo has a turntable in his basement. He showed me it's all decked out, and he's still spinning vinyl. He loves it.
Yeah, I do it almost every day. I have a nice system at the office. I actually have a portable turntable at home to bring out my backyard or the front porch, and I have two hardwired, one in my basement and one in our foyer. Because we just love records. There's a brewery nearby that does once a month. They do a whole like setup where you can pick through used records and drink beer and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's coming back. The record stores I didn't love, but the records are great.
So like I listen to Sirius XM, and one of the channels is classic vinyl. and they have the sound effect of a needle hitting the record, and it just hears like static. I love it. It just brings back memories. Anyway,
yeah, it's a whole experience.
It is. It's definitely a cool experience. And I don't know if that ties into loyalty. I think it's more traditionalists, people that like what was old is now new, and it's kind of making a comeback in that respect. But I wanted to let me dive into Propr, because I wanted to ask from a B2B standpoint, how do you think about businesses that are being loyal to other businesses? Like, how do you create brand loyalty in a B2B space where it's generally one-on-one? You might not have thousands of clients. You're going to have a couple of clients that are high worth clients. How do you create loyalty, or how do you encourage your B2B clients to think about creating brand loyalty to their brand on a B2B basis?
So let's start by defining brand. And in our definition of brand, your brand is your reputation. So when you think about it that way, it takes away that, like, your brand's your logo, which is, we struggle with that a lot because people think of brand as part of, like, the things that are the brand expression, like your identity, your logo, your website, your messaging. But those are all the components that make it up and make up your reputation. And what we really try to hammer home to anybody that can get an earshot of us is that you're going to get the reputation you deserve, not necessarily the one you want. So it's always aspirational. Work towards who you want to be. And that's not fake it till you make it, right? Because that's bullshitting people. But it's being yourself. There's a book I read last year from one of our clients. These guys are all like former military, become entrepreneurs. They're interesting dudes, fighter pilots and people that shot cannons and things, stuff that I've never done. But they kept recommending books to me, which I love. And the one was about this fellow named Naval Ravikant. And he's an investor, VC type guy, but he's very principled. And I love the book. And my biggest takeaway was, when you are, and I'm quoting him, paraphrasing, he said, when you are your authentic self, you don't have any competition because no one can compete with you on being you. And that resonated immensely. That just put it in a way that I wish I could, what we're trying to do with our clients, what we're trying to advise them to do. Just be yourself, be your authentic. Don't look to the others and say, that's who we want to be, or that's who I want to become. Like, think about what about that brand or that business is inspiring to you, or what you relate to, right? And that's what it's all about, is the relatability factor. So when you have good relationships with partners, we have a lot of, high value business partners, whether it's from like referral sources or they're collaborating with us on projects. What it comes down to it is we want to work with people we like. And we like them because we share values with them. We share principles with them. We share a common purpose. We give a shit about the same stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And what we try to really extract from our clients is like, what do you guys really give a shit about? And lead with that point of view, lead with that purpose, right? And, Patagonia is probably the one who's the most well-known in terms of having a purpose greater than transactions. We're all in business to make money. We're all in business to do well, but it doesn't have to come at the cost of, others or the world, right? Right. And I think about it in terms of like how nature, thrives without humans, right? It's symbiotic. They're sharing, they're giving, they're getting what they need. Mm-hmm. And, a healthy business ecosystem should look at nature and be inspired by that and say, how can we have a symbiotic relationship with our colleagues, with our customers, with our team, right? With our community. And that's going to get you in a spot that you feel more fulfilled than frustrated because you can be yourself, right? So when we bring on a new client for us, or we help our clients obtain new customers for them, it's all leading with authenticity. It's all leading with purpose and core values, because those are the way we're going to not trick or influence or advertise and, have some gimmicks and taglines and slogans that people are fun. That's not going to bring in new business. What's going to bring in new business is really conveying what you do for whom and why you do it. And that's going to help conversations happen that are going to be a lot more fruitful, where people are like, yeah, you jive with me. I know you can help me with your direct language on your website, or your marketing says what you do. I need help with that. Let's have a conversation and we'll both decide if it's the right fit.
So let me ask you then, Bobby, how does that tie into the title of the book, Build Your Brand Like You Don't Give a Shit?
Oh, sorry, I'm incorrect. It's Like You Give a Shit. Sorry,
Like You Give a Shit.
I missed it. Bad notes. That's okay. It ties in because what we're trying to, what I'm sharing through all my experiences and lots of stories and good and bad, funny and sad experiences throughout my career, is that, there's a ton of things that will make you not like your job, your boss, these companies you engage with. But there's only a few things that are really going to make you love it. And focus on those few things, right? Like, you hate your job because of the commute, or your boss is a micromanager, or the location stinks, the pay stinks. But if you empower them, if you give them autonomy, if you could be trustworthy enough to trust them, like, those are the things that are going to lead to a healthy ecosystem, a healthy environment that's going to attract the right people. So let me tell you about a client we had a few years ago. They were a client a couple of years before COVID. We were kind of doing just some light marketing things for them, advising them. And the managing director said, "Let's grab beers. I want to talk about the future." It's great. I'll do that anytime. We don't even have to talk about the future. And we sat down and he said, "I want to be acquired in 3 years. We're struggling mightily with recruiting." There were big data analytics. So it's software engineers, Python developers, smart guys that there's not a ton of them walking around. And we want to increase revenue. So we created what's called a brand clarity workshop, which is really the starting point for us to help our clients, embrace their purpose, to unleash their potential. And we said, all right, let's keep marketing the way we're marketing. They marketed to Fortune 2000 companies. So it's not like they needed 1,000 customers. They needed 2, right? So we sat down, we went through the workshop. With the CEO and the managing director, super, super, super smart, tough people, like Princeton grads, football player, like this dude, big dude, but we sat there and we dug deep. And we identify what they're really about and why their customers should care. And coming out of that workshop, we finished it in early fall of 2019. A few months later, they doubled their revenue because they're able to reduce their sales cycle from 12 months to 8 weeks, because they were able to convey their benefit concisely in the right tone to the right people, right? Not only that, they want to be acquired in 3 years. 6 months later, they were acquired. So we lost our biggest client because they quadrupled their retainer with us after they doubled revenue, which is not a problem that we lost our client, and we can get to that later, because we want to lose our clients. That's our mission, in the right way. But they also were able to put in the infrastructure to identify what's the right person to hire for this, employee experience, for our culture, for what we're doing. And by saying, we're not just looking at a resume to hire somebody, we're looking at the person and what their values are, what their principles are, what they care about, what's important to them. And the company could easily say, this is what's important to us. And we mapped out what's important to their customers, and we mapped out what's important to their potential talent. And putting that in front of them super empowers them to make the right decision to get the right employee, which is going to end up being a loyal employee because they appreciate what they're doing. They feel fulfilled. They're a valued asset to the team. The customer is going to be loyal because they're getting the same thing. They're getting the support, the experience, the people they need to make a difference. So in terms of us, right, they tripled their retainer. They said, what should we spend with you per month? I said this, and they said, okay. And we did it for a good 3 months before they got acquired. And I knew they were getting acquired. But the best part of the story is the customer loyal we fostered with that client is, about 3 months, 3.5 months after the acquisition, they came back. So they're acquired by a global financial data, multi-billion-dollar company. And they came back to us to help tell their new story, authentic story, their positioning, their what they can do, why, to help empower their existing business dev team to go and sell in this new service to their existing customers. So that's a self-fulfilling prophecy for us. Like, that's what we started the company on. The hunch that I said there's a better way if you keep it real, right, and focus on what's the most important stuff, not egos and whims and opinions, but what's best for the brand and what's best for the future customer. You get these types of outcomes. You get loyalty, you get revenue, you get goodwill, you get testimonials, you get references, all this good stuff that all people that are entrepreneurs really desire.
That's great. I love that. I love that concept, Bobby, because again, that resonates with me. When you do something for someone that's true to form, and then they're going to come back, especially in an altered state based on the fact that they were acquired, and then to still come back to you, that speaks volumes.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. So let me ask you this. What does the future of loyalty look like to you?
The good news is that I'm seeing a huge shift that started years ago, but it's, I really hope it really gains ground, is that the authenticity of brands, like getting rid of the gimmicks, the platitudes, right? The silly stuff, like, we understand you. And, it's just all lies and nonsense and PR and spin, right? But brands are really taking a serious look at it because they know that, hey, wait a second, we can make money without, bullshitting anybody and taking advantage of people. We can be successful here. In fact, we can be more successful. There's a Forbes study I've been referencing since the pandemic started, because I looked at the pandemic as a recession because there's no historic data on how to navigate through a pandemic. Now we have it. But unfortunately, I looked at it as a recession, and there's basically a recession every 10 years. So there's lots of data on there. And one thing I learned is that brands that have sustained, and even Jim Collins' Good to Great talks a lot about this, like, brands that sustain are really focused on their purpose, their values, hire for that. They sell to people around that. But, it's leading with that as well. So it's like 94% of consumers, which I hate using that term consumers because it's people, but 94% of people say they want to engage with brands and will be loyal to brands that share a purpose that they believe in. Now, we don't have to say that our purpose is, saving the whales or saving the rainforest. While those should happen, your purpose shouldn't be destroying those things. But your purpose can be something as simple as connecting people, empowering people, right? And I think about our purpose at Propr, no matter who touches the brand, and hopefully the listeners take this away, is we want people to improve, want them to be better, want to feel empowered, want them to feel courage, to be self-sufficient, to go out and do things that they were previously afraid to do or not felt that they were in a position to do. So that empowerment is so critical to us that's what we want to. We just happen to do branding and positioning and architecture and design and marketing and websites. Like, that's how we kind of like execute on those things. But our purpose is really to make our clients better. And in fact, I hope I'm not the only, running the only agency that says we want our clients to succeed without us.
Right.
We want them to get to the point where they're self-sufficient and empowered with the tools, the assets, the confidence, all those things you need to succeed without us. And go hire another agency to push the buttons or bring it in-house or whatever. But we want to get them to the point where, like, we're scaling and all we need are, social media graphics and email stuff and things. I'm like, great, go on. Right. Yeah. And, that really drives every decision we're making. And just think about the power you have, how much easier business and leading can be if your decisions can be quickly made by having the guts to ask what's best for the brand and our future customer, but also the clarity to actually answer that. And that's what we start with, right? And that's what we have when we see our clients gain that. Like, that's what fulfills me. Like, I don't push pixels anymore, but I push that. And that, up in the head and up in that confidence and up in that ability to lead and create an organization that can scale. Like, it's just helping them get there. And the way I like to think about it is, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. We're not Luke. We're Obi-Wan. We're making sure your company, you're Luke, our clients are Luke, that you heed that call to adventure, and we put you in the right position to be able to succeed in it.
I love it. These are not the droids you're looking for. Well, listen, Bobby, we could talk about this all day, but we found over the 2 years I've been doing this that 30 minutes is usually the max. So I want to wrap it up. I want to thank you for taking the time today. If listeners want to get a hold of you, Bobby, what's the best way they could do that?
I mean, check me out on LinkedIn. Tell me how you heard of us. My handle is @BobbyG. Or you can check us out on our website. We created a landing page for Rob's show. It's proprdesign.com, and Propr is spelled PROPR, no E, proprdesign.com/loyalty-minute. And just hit us up.
Yeah, I'll link to it in the show notes. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, again, Bobby, I want to thank you for taking your time, sharing some of your valuable insights. I like the concept. Again, when you build something for someone that lets them then go out and do it on their own, that's powerful stuff, as long as they take it and run with it. I also want to thank our listeners for taking some of their valuable time, sharing it with us. If you think you've earned some value from the show, please do share. That's how we grow. To reference this and other Loyalty Minute episodes, please visit theloyaltyminute.com. Enjoy.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for your next edition of the Loyalty Minute.